Welcome, you guys. These are always really fun weeks here with the Origin buy rounds. When there's 4 games on, obviously not great because there's less footy, but we get to really make some ranks up, lose a lot of ranks potentially as well, and set yourselves up ready for the way home. We're building to our final teams, and this week's really important. It's like, well, do you pick up that mid-ranger that isn't going to make you money and turn into a keeper? Do you have enough trades to do that, to potentially hit a better score in round 17? Do you just go for cash outs this week and build up plenty of bank and then launch in 18 and 19 to build to your final squad? Do you try and hold trades and just cop a loss this week and keep your team in great setup for 18, 19 and the rest of the season? Are you going all in this week and just really hoping for some luck over the back end of the weeks? That's all our questioning here. And the biggest thing for these team lists is looking for players that you don't really know. So we're looking for the cheaper guys who could do something this week at a price that is under 250k would be the goal. There's going to be a couple guys that we don't know who aren't in fantasy either, but they will come in tomorrow. So let's be aware of that also. This first game's going to be pretty fun. Sharks v the Storm. If we're looking for guys as options on the Sharks side of the ball, we don't really have any. We have Kennedy, which we spoke about last week, but that's going to be it. If you think that he can come out and do pretty well against the Storm, then by all means select him. He's not at a ridiculous price, but there are going to be cheaper guys I think that could do a little bit better for you. We still have McInnes on the bench, which is a little bit annoying as well, but yeah, what are we going to do? We're not trading him now. We're holding and seeing what happes there. In terms of other guys, we get to see Nico Hines play. So he's been named in the 19 jersey for Origin, which means he's available to play. And smart idea. I think we got White in the 18, which he has a bye this week, which allows him to go into that game and be available to play. Whereas Nico, he's allowed to play for Sharks, which is great. And considering they play on the Thursday night this week, is helpful for him. And anyone who owns him, which is everyone. Okay, so on the other side of the ball, we've got the Storm there. And the biggest one to think about here is Pap as a keeper. Do you pick him up now? That's the biggest thing. Do you pick up someone like Jerome Hughes? Do you think he can begin to build into the rest of the season? Completely up to you. Brandon Smith, does he become an option for you if you have extra trades? If you're sitting there with like 10 trades, maybe you can play with Brandon Smith over the next few weeks and make that decision. And the other one here is going to be Chris Lewis. So he comes in a little bit under 300k, 270 approximately, I believe, but we'll go through all of these guys in a lot of a deeper detail, guys. This one here is looking at potential guys. You guys can have a little look up yourselves, see how they fit you with your money, and potentially make some mock trades this week and go from there. Other guys you may not have heard too much about is Jordan Grant, so we'll speak about him on the interchange there. But what we're looking for here is guys that are going to be playing some decent minutes and have, if they're in the outside backs, have the potential to score a try or two if the matchup is nice. Or we've got guys like Chris Lewis who have been in this position in the past and could be getting some decent minutes. So that's the theory here with these types of players in these teams. So there are two to start. We've got Knights v the Rabbitohs in the second game on the Friday night. And guys we're looking at here on the Knights side of the ball really aren't too many. We've got some keepers in Clemmer, in Frizzell, in Barnett that you could potentially look at. And we have Jaden Brayley coming back off the bench, which is great. So again, we're not really looking at him. We're not going to be looking at Randall anyway, so it doesn't mean too much, but just great to see him come back and hopefully can spark some nice games that they played last week, a good one, and see if they can keep doing that. There's no real options for cash outs on the bench for them. And the Bunnies one's a little bit interesting. We see Isaiah Tass, who's got really lucky. Obviously played last week, but then Campbell Graham out injured. Looks for 6 to 8 weeks for Campbell Graham. That Isaiah Tass gets his opportunity. He is semi-cheap, which is ideal. So we'll definitely look at him. I'm going to jump in with Scoop tomorrow night and deep dive into a lot of the cash outs and some of the guys you should pick up as well. So be sure to stay tuned for that one. It'll be pretty late on Wednesday, the upload will be. So we'll have that there ready to go for about 24 hours before game day, which will be sweet. All right, so we see Silva Havili move into the 9 position, which is pretty great for him and anyone who owns him. End up being a pretty solid pick up about a month ago when we spoke about him. So well done to those guys in round 14 for looking at him. We've got Colin Matangi, potential gun, which we've spoken about a few weeks ago. And Jed Cartwright, someone that we haven't spoken about too much, but he gets his opportunity in the 12 position. So definitely worth a look in, and we'll go through him in detail again tomorrow night. In terms of the interchange, we see Blake Taff, we see David Wiley, which is great, and Cheekham. So Cheekham's an awkward price. David Wiley is obviously the super cheap auto and could just be a guy that you plug in now if you don't own him, a few of our teams do, which means you get that little bit of an extra boost. But how many minutes he's going to play? Interesting question. They do have Nikorima and Taff on the interchange, which means Cheekham and Davy are going to be that middle rotation. Do we see Silva Havili play big minutes? Probably decent minutes, but not the full. I'd imagine they have Nikorima to come in and play some kind of a role. Blake Taff's there for some injury cover. And the other two guys are going to play okay minutes, I'd say. Davy probably, he's been playing 15 when he does play, so hopefully like a 25 to 30 would be good for him. Okay, Saluka Fafita from the Roosters, he gets in, he's a straight swap over from Roosters to Rabbitohs this week, and he's been named in 18, so he has some potential to come in and play one of these roles as well. So just be aware of that for the late mail. If you are picking Davy, we could lose him, unfortunately, but unsure at this point. There could be some better options. All right, Tigers v the Eels. On the Tigers side, we see Adam Dewey move into the centres, which is great for him. I still don't think he's going to be a buy this week. If he happens to get into the halves, I think he could potentially be a buy. But this week, he's been losing cash, so I don't see him as being a great option. In this one, Farmanu Brown, unfortunately, is a bit too expensive in my eyes for to be someone that's going to make you some cash and go from there. When you got Jacob Little in the 16 role this week, again, that might move and change things, but at this stage, I think you've got to stay away from Brown there. Tuolangi, he is still semi-cheap, had a decent week on the weekend, got 38, I believe, so he's going to do okay, make a bit of cash, but I think you can avoid him at that price and go for someone cheaper this week. Offengawe, a few people have been asking me about him. I think he's moved into keeper status definitely now. With Twiley out potentially for the year, Joe's going to have to play some big minutes through the middle, and I think that his PPM this year has been spectacular, and you can expect anywhere around a 55 for him in points, potentially upwards of 60 some weeks. We've got the last week to go off where you get that big 80, and if he can get 50 in between some 70s and 80s, then he's going to be awesome for the rest of the year. In terms of guys we don't know on the bench, we've got Matamua and we've got Pole, who are two guys that could be potential options in your side this week. You got Seyfarth in 19, which is strange. I thought he'd be definitely getting a crack this week, but we'll see. Maybe he's carrying a bit of an injury. I'm not exactly sure. But those two guys are someone to have a look at, and we'll go from there. Eels on the other side of the ball. We don't really have anyone to speak about. I am off the Eels currently. Madison's probably the only one you want to look at this week. I think Shawnee Lane, he's probably gone up a bit too much, but Madison's going to be a keeper long term. Playing through the middle, the minutes he's going to get there is going to be pretty normal to what he has been getting. And yeah, definitely a solid option this week. Only guys in the interchange you want to look at is Rodwell, but again, what his role is going to be, we're not really sure. Okay, last game of the round there. We got the Broncos v the Dragons, and anyone wants to look at here, we've got Pereira coming in a bit too expensive, unfortunately. We see Zach Hosking, who's not in the game yet, but he's going to be coming in at a 220 price or a 240 price, whatever they decide to pick for him. And he's going to get a starting role in the number 11 jersey. And you look at the bench there, and we've got Xavier Willison as well, who's going to come in cheap. But any of these guys are going to be playing on the edge. Kennedy's in the middle, Pakes is a 9. We've got Gamble as a cover for a few positions. And Willison, you'd imagine, is going to play through the middle. Other good thing here is Palacia's getting the start. So I picked him up last week, and that's what I was hoping for, is him getting that 8 jersey. So 50 minutes, you'd say, for him like last week, but hopefully a better score. And then Willison and Hosking could get some decent minutes as well. So let's check out Hosking over the next few days. We'll deep dive into him tomorrow. We'll get Scoop to get some stats up on the young fella. Okay, so Dragon side of the ball now. We don't really have too much to talk about as well in terms of changes. You got both Molos on the bench there. You got Moses Mbai and Wood. So all guys that aren't cheap enough to be an option. And you got Jaden Sullivan, who comes in at just too expensive of a price in the number 7 jersey, and will probably do pretty well, him and Amone, this week. So that's the team list. We'll deep dive into a few of these other guys over the next few days here. And I wish you best of luck heading into round 17. If you are liking these videos, subscribe and like. That would be awesome. I appreciate you all so much, and we'll catch you in the next few videos going through analyzing teams. We've got the Scoop deep dive tomorrow. We'll do a bit of a buy, hold, sell as well. See you guys. Have a good one.